My name is Shirley Daniel. I'm from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and I've been living in Arizona for 45 years. When certain signs started to show up in my 40s, it was allergies actually, and gut issues, stomach issues, digestive problems, um, and then just having food allergies. Like I couldn't eat just the standard American diet any longer. I was just hit the roadblocks there, and I wanted relief, and so I went to a pulmonary specialist. Of course, they wanted me on inhalers because it would trigger an asthma episode. These are early signs of why have I have lung issues? And then of course I started to evaluate the downsides of my work and being around chemicals and using chemicals, absorbing chemicals from the kind of work that I did in hair. I did a lot of chemical services and to make a living, and but it run its toll, and it accumulated over time. So that was the first thing I looked at. So I started to eliminate a lot of food, and I started preparing foods differently, and that's what brought on some positive changes. But it was just basically another plug because the stress was, I had coping mechanisms that weren't healthy because I was juggling a lot, and so I didn't know how to de-stress and learn how to enjoy life a little more, and I was just doing so much and not really being and enjoying things in life, and it was like a runaway train. Actually, I was just ready to hit the wall. I'm sure that's what really happened, but it accumulated after the COVID situation. I was home at that time working for about 5 years in my salon, and to retire. I was sort of like in that semi-retirement phase, and COVID was a strange time for everyone. Of course, we were all under a lot of stress with that. And I still was able to work, but I have my theories behind why I had almost like a form of turbo cancer, I'd say, call it. It was just like 2 back-to-back cancers hit hard. And I was around a lot of people who were vaccinated at the time. I had a large elderly clientele who were quick to jump and get all the vaccines, and I was not one to be interested in them. I just wasn't going to do them. I just had this sense of, no, I'm not doing it. So I didn't have the pressure of losing a job because I was working, self-employed, working at home. And so I didn't. But I think spike proteins really did affect that exposure with people freshly vaccinated day in, day out, with several people coming and going, had accelerated some of this cancer. And can I say conclusively? No, but I think looking at the writing and doing the research, there is such thing as spike proteins, and they are very damaging to other people around you. So that explains a lot of the cancer coming quickly behind each other, and it was a crazy year when I found that out. But that was fast forward from the early signs, but it mostly got issues from allergies to, eating differently and modifying and getting away from gluten and dairy and the standard American diet, and I just kept fine-tuning my food options, but it was too late. I had already established a lot of years of not healthy eating and not really paying attention to my own, well-being, really. Yeah. I was feeling okay. I just knew there was this cancer going on in my body, and I was, just concerned about what it was going to look like going forward. But I was also hopeful when I met Dr. Rumby at that point. But earlier, I was just like, cut it out, get rid of it, let me get on with my life. And I was really in denial about a lot of it. And it was not in late stages when it was caught. I had originally breast cancer, and that also was the first, red flag. And then that was addressed surgically. And then 11 months later, I detected a mole that had changed, and it became melanoma. And I'd been going to my dermo for every 6 months just because I've had, basal cells and different skin issues. So that was already a trigger, to going, and luckily I was going to this dermatologist, and that's where I found out it was melanoma now. So that came right after. And so then we wondered if it was the same cancer. It was just quite stressful, actually. The whole thing, the unknown. The medicine they're always quick to give you treatment, but it's not always necessarily targeted for what's needed. And so sadly, I would have had to have taken all kinds of things, and I refused. I said, I can hold. I'm going to wait. I'm going to do some homework. I'm not letting anybody rush me into, just treatment for the sake of it. I wanted to read up more about it and the type of specific cancers that was going on, and so I just needed some time. I had to pause for a while, and then the prayer came, and that's when and the issue of just trying to sort out where I was going to live and get my business out of the picture, and it was time to retire. I was in my 60s now at this point, and so it was just time, to change the channel and start focusing on myself. Yes, when I discovered New Legacy and Dr. Rumby, I was introduced to her through my daughter, who worked not very far from here, actually, and she was servicing her for something, and they spoke a great deal, and they connected. And my daughter is very aware of holistic stuff, so because of me, and so there was just an amazing encounter between the two of them. And because my daughter knew I was looking for something alternative to mainstream medical, solutions, she introduced me to her. So I was able to talk with her and start communicating, and it was just a perfect fit. And I needed guidance. I just needed real strong direction. I needed to mop up my body and the mess inside. I knew dental work was an issue. There were all kinds of other things that needed to be addressed, but I didn't know how to go about it. But Dr. Rumi had all the solutions right off the bat, right up front. I was perfectly guided in every step of this process. So it wasn't overwhelming. She was undoubtedly skilled and knowledgeable, and she loved the work she did, and that was really the magic behind our connection. So, and I admired that. Yes, we started off with the IVs, and they were they'd go I'd go 6 weeks straight every week, a couple of times a week, and it was 4 of them, and I had listed it just because it's. I just wanted to remember them all, but EGCG is one of them, curcumin, the high-dose vitamin C, and artemisinin. Those were the 4 that I started off taking, and then along with that were her recommended supplements that were guided by the blood work that I was also took those, and so basically with that, she was able to target more directly to what my body needed going forward. So that's pretty much how it all began. So it was kind of a whirlwind, but it was done in such a systematic way that I really didn't feel overwhelmed at all. It was just a learning curve for me, and the exciting thing is I got to learn everything that she was doing. So I understood why she was doing it. And that was the comfort right there. That was the way I could deal with this, was I had to know why she was doing it and what it was good for. And then it was very exciting, actually. It was just a really positive experience. I feel amazing now because of the different therapies outside of what I do here with Dr. Rumby. She's offered suggestions for me to do, and I was very open to that, like a hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and then of course I do PMF mat, which is really good for just resting and decompressing, and red lights therapy. I do have a sauna, with a red light in it, so I would do a lot of detoxing. That was a big part of the therapy at the very beginning. We had to detox, and so that right away was nice to purchase that, because it was going to be my best friend going forward, especially with skin cancer. You really want that, cleaning the pores and eliminating any toxins and create those barriers. And then the next big step was to go to get the dental work done, which was root canals had to be removed. And I had very bad root canals all over. I had done some restorative amalgam removals in my 40s, which also kind of triggered an autoimmune issue because it releases the mercury. But when you go to general practices in dental care, it's all done incorrectly. And so when you have a solution like removing amalgams, they immediately say, well, your tooth's so far gone, it needs a root canal. And then therefore you get that. And then 20 years into that, those were infected. And I had to go to a biological dentist. And so that allowed me to do, the removal of those teeth. And that I'd say is probably one of the largest cornerstones to getting on top of the cancer and kind of getting in front of it to see whether that's going to slow down this thing and prevent some of the metastasis. It's really quite a big piece. It's a big undertaking, but it's worth it. But I'd love to be proactive, and to help her be successful at what she does, she helps me be successful in what I do. So that's what makes this a really good, team. There is some movement because it's an aggressive type. We know characteristically what it is. And so we are still targeting more specific things that could find a new outlet, because cancer likes to move around and find new outlets. And so we had to tweak and adjust diet and choose different, it's a very, metabolic active cancer, this one. Most of them are, which they run pretty much the same in that area metabolically, but the key is to keep carbohydrates down very low and learning how to eat and cook and discipline and intermittent fasting and fasting. Those are huge. So I'm prepared to do what that will take if things start to be active and moving more aggressively again, if it finds a new pathway. That's what it's known to do. But at this point, this is without treatment from the medical field, it's not moving. So it's pretty stable and markers have come down. So there's not a lot of activity, and that's what we want. And then just continue with, what I'm doing, which has still been an ongoing process. So everything I do improves everything. And so I'm still kind of new in the game. It's been a full year with Dr. Umbi, and there's still lots of things that I have to keep at and be consistent with in order for it to be successful going forward. And of course, the power of prayer is everything. And I believe in healing. So my mind is probably the biggest piece you have to work with, is to meditate and do a lot of soul searching and taking inventory of your life and look back on what needs to heal and forgiveness. These are big parts of it, So this is why it's been a journey and still is, but I'm grateful to be here today. Yeah. That's a challenging question only because everybody's in a different place in their lives, and being able to know them well enough to be able to make suggestions, but to take that moral inventory and to be prepared to do what it takes to improve your life if it's possible, and to be willing and to be able to fight for your life is the most important thing. How, I would say the first question would be, how do you really want to live? And start with that, and really want to fight this thing, going forward, and then to do whatever is necessary. And would they want my help would be, first of all, to ask that, because if they don't, they're not going to want to hear it. But at the same time, that first question really leads to the next leading question, which would be, how much more, do you think you could do to help contribute to improving your health? Because our doctors think you don't have to do anything. You just sit back and let them treat you. And that's a death sentence, my opinion. Oh, 100%. Yes, the personal guidance, the one-on-one, which is so much better than a large staff member running around. Everybody's got, too busy to really, have conversation, learn about anything. And really it's important that they learn this with their doctor, and Dr. Umbi will teach that so that when they go home, they know what to do with their own lives going forward. So it's essential that we have that one-on-one relationship as we go through this. So yes, I would recommend her 100% to everybody. She's very knowledgeable. This is my happy place when I come here, so, and that's why I come to.